Welcome to another ClimateTech podcast, interviews with the people trying to save us from ourselves. I've been wanting to talk about education more on this podcast, so I was really happy when Christian Rebernik, co-founder of Tomorrow University, was keen to be on it. Christian is Berlin's startup royalty and turned his focus to building a digital university a few years ago that's totally focused on impact. We talked about how a university dropout became a university chancellor, the challenges and opportunities of creating community online, and reaching 1 million people. I reached Christian in Berlin. I'm Ryan Grant Little. Thanks for being here. Christian, it's great to have you on the podcast. Hello.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
You have got a great pedigree as the CTO of some of Germany's most famous and successful tech companies. You've been in Berlin since 2009. You're from Vienna. So it means we were in Berlin at the same time for at least a decade. And maybe we crossed paths. I'm not sure, but possibly because we have a lot of people in common. But you've been involved with some of these really, really famous companies like Parship, the matchmaking platform, the digital bank N26, and then as the co-founder of a health tracker called Vivi. And now, and for the past few years, you've been the co-founder and you're the chancellor of an accredited online university called Tomorrow University. So, Mr. Chancellor, what was the impetus for starting Tomorrow University?
Thank you very much. I'm still not used to this kind of title. And it's funny that you mentioned Parship and 26 because they're not the same industry at all. It's like really different industries and dealing with health. And now you talk about Tomorrow, which is about education. Yeah, so it's fundamentally different industries, but there is a red line between them. And the red line, literally over the last 20 years, I had the opportunity to build digital products and to have with them a positive impact. And this is literally what is across my whole life, actually. It's a path across my whole life. Nonetheless, education is not a given because also I dropped out the first time when I started to study. So the reason when I was studying, I was already unhappy about studying myself. It was not very motivating for myself, the studying. It never was really never had the feeling that what I learned really matters. I couldn't connect that. Yeah? And now I'm a little bit older. So now I have 3 kids and they go also to school. And there was a point in my life when they started to go in school and a lot was coming up, which I had actually experienced back then when I was in school, which was about, hey, you need to learn for that exam. You need to get this good grade. Yeah. But why? Why is this matters? Yeah, there's a grade which I need to do good. I need to learn hard. Okay, but why? Yeah. And then the learning, it was during the pandemic when my kids have been in homeschool and my son, he was sitting on the other side of the dinner table and he had this experience where he was actually learning about Berlin history, which is really interesting, I think. But the teacher just kept on talking for pretty much an hour. And I don't know, in minute 51 or something like that, my son was really falling asleep. And this was really the moment I thought, okay, education hasn't changed. It's pretty much broken. The world has changed so much. We have now, the libraries are not anymore locked up. The knowledge is not locked up. You can go online, you look things up. AI becomes really powerful now so that you actually have a tool which helps you to craft eventually more effective solutions. So the environment is changing, but our education doesn't. And this is not helping because I think also that just looking at my kids, but everybody, education is the fundamental to create a better future. This is enabling us constantly to drive forward. So it's one of the most important things, actually, not for a short-term quick win and doing things, solving the climate crisis tomorrow, but creating a sustainable society, solving climate eventually. This is where education matters. And this is the reason why we actually founded Tomorrow's Education with that kind of approach that we say, hey, education is important and we think we need to fix that. So here we are.
And so, yeah, I was going to mention that I saw that you dropped out of your business degree, which is like a, proper tech founder kind of thing to do. And if I look back on my life and, it's a controversial thing to say, but one of my regrets is that I didn't drop out of university because I was building a public foundation. I was building a public foundation called Canada Helps when I was 20 or 21, which now I'm 43 and I look back and it's still the best thing I ever did. And doing that while kind of doing a degree because I was kind of supposed to or expected to, but I was not super engaged in it. And I was, doing something much bigger and grander kind of on the side, which basically led me to, almost burn out by trying to do both at the same time. And so I was wondering, is your decision to do this does that come somehow from kind of frustration about the education that you experienced in your undergraduate degree? And maybe to ask it a different way, how is Tomorrow University fixing the mistakes that you saw in kind of what I'll call legacy education?
So then once I dropped out, the reality is it is shit hard to learn. It is actually really not that easy. Yeah. And to do this all by yourself means you make a lot of mistakes and it's a lot of searching, actually finding the right information. Yeah. And so I think also, now this sounds a little bit awkward, I think my career was actually quite slow. It was a lot of learning the hard way. I talked to many people just to get to know where I'm looking for, actually. I didn't know when I started my first company, also while I was studying, but I didn't know what actually I needed to run a business at all, literally at all. Yeah, from the basic things, creating an invoice, to actually how sales works, yeah, to communication, and to learn this, it's really tough. I think it took me really a long time actually to build it up. So I think that overall, the concept actually that they spend time on learning to building up competence, I think is really, really important, and it really empowers us to be more successful. And I think also this is one of the key accelerators in a nutshell, but I don't want that everybody needs to go and just talk about kids, but I don't think it's the right way that you all need to do it by yourself. I think we have so great tools now, so we can help you in a so effective way. And how does this work in a nutshell? From our perspective, the first thing, to simplify it, it's really about knowing why you learn. This is what comes if you have a career, like what you said. You know why. If you know why, this is amazing, because now you have actually something you want to solve. You want to learn because of a reason. So this increases the motivation, the engagement. And then once this is about, then you need to find out, I want to learn something which is relevant, but it's not about learning things by heart. This doesn't help you in real life.
Right.
Just getting the knowledge, okay, I can repeat everything. It's not solving it. You need to be able to create a business model, actually, not just know what is in the business model. You need to be able to sell something, not just in theory, know all the different marketing concepts. Yeah. So it is about this competence. And the third thing, life is not alone. You're not isolated. Every business, every career is actually a joint thing. It's about doing this together. So it is about building up a network, yeah, knowing who you can ask. It's about collaboration. So also that means our mission is to educate and empower the change makers of tomorrow. But empowerment is about this kind of network. And this means for us, we are thinking about here, and luckily actually my co-founder, he has the education background. So he told me, I asked him actually, Thomas, this is not working. Our kids, they don't learn effective. Why is this the case? And he told me it's a systematic problem. We know how to do it better. And it's nothing new. The science behind how learning works is really from the last century. There's a lot of research about how effective learning works, yeah, but it's so hard to put it into our systems in place, yeah. And we literally didn't reinvent the wheel on the learning science. We just took what is there and put it into tomorrow, which is about challenge-based learning. It's about competence-based learning, so that we leverage your strengths you have already, you build on top the competence and you flourish this, you learn on the relevant challenges, actually, and apply the knowledge first. So you learn the knowledge, you apply the knowledge, and then also you give feedback to others based on what you have learned and what you have experienced actually to build it up. It's about social learning, so that you see what others and experience what others actually are learning. You can exchange on it. Yeah. So this is not the rocket science, but we have created, and this is important, a technology which can help you achieve this, not based on one academic, but actually as a systematical phenomenon. So it's really built into the whole system. Yeah. So in my school, I had also these 3 teachers. My English teacher was really amazing, great, yeah. But the math teacher was not good, so I was frustrated with math. And so many of us have this experience that one teacher was great, but the other one was really treated them shit, yeah. And this shouldn't be the case. If you're learning, I think every class should be outstanding and relevant. So this is what we're trying to do with tomorrow, is that we want to educate and empower change makers. We want to make every class outstanding for you. Every class needs to be relevant, and every class needs to be social, where you together learn for your purpose in a nutshell. And this is Tomorrow University.
So are you taking pedagogical methods that have worked from the past and then combining that in a way with best practices of sort of digital community collaboration, that type of thing, and knowledge management potentially as well. Is this like an intersection of these two kinds of things? What's the principle?
Yes, absolutely. It's exactly what you said. We take the learning science, we put it into a platform and into a pedagogy. The special thing about tomorrow is that we designed it from the ground up for an online environment. And this is also where new challenges arise, because nobody has literally figured out online education really. Yeah, because you have this, I stare at the screen and there are 20 faces, but it's not the same thing if you have 20 people in a room and you feel that the proximity of people, you can look at people, can talk to people. So there are challenges in these online environments which you need to solve or which you need to design for. And this is where we have, for example, the campus at tomorrow. It's not like a video conference, they just have the faces, but actually it's more like a floor plan of the campus. And you see the people walking around, and every time you go into the proximity of an student, a video will put up and you can talk to them. Which means also if there's an academic, a professor standing around, you just can walk up to them and ask them. It means also that if there's a class and you're 5 minutes early, you can actually socialize and connect. Or after that class, then you can still stay and just talk to the academic and have some follow-up questions. So it goes away from, for example, this more transactional in and out approach to something which is more social. And so we're working, and I don't think we have figured everything out, but I think we are really trying to innovate and look, how can we make learning online work? Because there's so many benefits of this online, from flexibility. You can learn when it fits you. You can learn from so many different locations, wherever you are. This is really great to save on commuting time. You can also connect around the world. I think that many of the problems we have today, they are interconnected between countries, actually. So this kind of cross-country collaboration is really important. And all this actually becomes possible doing it online.
Do your students meet in person at any point? I'm just trying to think back to my time where, a lot of the student experience was the in-person bonding, the late night philosophical conversations in dorm rooms, that type of thing. And I wonder, it's already really interesting that people can show up early to the class and chat, and people can walk up to a professor kind of in this like avatar way, I guess. And I'm just wondering how you create the kind of maybe even outside of class student experience for these university students.
Yeah, we like to say the world is your campus, in the sense you can complete the degree fully online, but we encourage every student to meet in person. And we have regular events, immersion days, where actually the students come together from all the different backgrounds, also across the different programs, by the way, and stay together for a couple of days. And that's where we have panels, we have speaker sessions, we have workshops, but a lot of fun, drinking, late night sessions, all these things actually. Yeah? So this is one thing for every student. It's not possible for every student nonetheless. Yeah, this is something which is optional, but we really encourage it. Then the second thing is, depending on the city, we have local, we call this currently hubs, learning hubs. Yeah, so where people actually, like in Vienna or in Berlin or in Amsterdam, for example, the people come together and learn and meet regularly. There's a city ambassador, and he's organizing that also to connect the local learners with, for example, startups. And this is really helping them to connect to each other, get to know each other better, spend nights together, develop relationships further, because we think also this is really, really important. And this cannot be resolved by just learning online. This relationship building is an important part. Yeah? And we fully believe this is actually one of the key parts of tomorrow, that you don't do this like always just in one location, but you can actually interculturally meet and also travel eventually to different locations. Yeah, the last meetup was in Frankfurt. The next one is in Vienna. Then we have one in London, for example. So you experience different cities. You experience also different students, and you can connect and mingle. And then you have your most stable connections in your direct proximity, which is your city.
Those, you've referenced a number of European cities. Does that mean the student base is mostly in Europe?
I would say 80% of the students are in Europe.
Okay, interesting. And as you alluded to kind of earlier, talking about invoices, marketing plans, these types of things, it's a business school. And you offer 2 undergrad degrees, responsible entrepreneurship and management, as well as AI and sustainable technologies, which is a pretty interesting one. I'm sure that's getting lots of traction, especially right now. And 2 master's degrees, a master in science, a master in sciences, in sustainability, entrepreneurship, and technology. as well as an impact MBA, which has 6 separate streams to pick from itself. Why these degrees? How did you land on these specific degrees?
I work with a lot of companies who plan to open up shop in or expand across Europe. My one big piece of advice: don't fall into the trap of setting up a new entity right away. Instead, talk to my friends at Paracar, who can help you get up and running without all the costs, not to mention the legal and HR hassle. When I was hiring in different EU countries, I wanted my team to focus on their work, not on the country's bureaucracy. After interviewing a half dozen international expansion firms, I chose Paracar because they were by far the most knowledgeable and they're great people. Whether you're a large multinational looking to expand abroad, a small business looking for the right talent, or a contractor, they'll sort it out. Book a free, no-obligation consultation right now at paracar.eu/climate. That's PARAKAR.eu/climate.
Yeah, that's a really great question, because we're also constantly thinking about what are the right degrees, actually. And from our perspective, I mentioned we want to educate the change makers of tomorrow. So we want to shape the people who are actually creating better tomorrow. So what are the relevant skills there actually for that? What is the relevant credentials they need? Who needs that? And from this, we're deriving it. And with the skills, we're talking quite often about these 21st century skills, which we are focusing on. There are 6 of them, which is on a more like hard skill, like technology is really important, but it's about also entrepreneurial thinking and acting. It's about sustainability. It's about emotional proficiency. It's about self-leadership, which are really important. It's about communicating impactful. And based on that now, we're looking into the more specific areas. Yeah. So for example, the impact MBA, again, impact is also very clear. We don't believe you just need the traditional MBA program, which is just to make profit, make more money. We think that it's not a bad thing to make money, but you need to combine it with a positive impact. Yeah, and this is the reason why for us, the impact MBA is actually about exactly combining this, a positive impact, but also creating businesses. And then you have more specifically green marketing and ESG, you have climate leadership, topics in that field, which help you to build a successful career. The Master of Science, what you mentioned before, in sustainability and information technology, exactly, it's for the people who actually are entrepreneurs who want to create businesses, especially. And again, they're learning about sustainability, creating circular economy companies, for example. They're learning about technology because technology makes leaders just more effective in today's world. Technology is pretty much in every field. And entrepreneurship is really for the thinking and about solutions. And then we have the bachelor programs, which are falling into the same directions as bachelor for responsible entrepreneurship and the AI topic. Again, technology is the key to build a better future, and entrepreneurship to create companies which lead to a better future. Yeah? So this is literally integrated in all our programs. Yeah.
I mean, I love that Tomorrow University focuses only, specifically on the intersection of business and impact. And, as someone who did a very traditional MBA, this is, I think, what we need in 2024. I give talks at business universities from time to time, and I do this specifically and solely to convince students to put their talents and time into solving problems that matter, right? So climate change, number one, basically. And I tell them, straight up that if they go to work for Goldman Sachs or to McKinsey, they'll make a lot of money, they'll have lots of status in certain circles, but they will be actively fucking up the world. And I don't always get invited back to these universities. But I wonder, and the message lands a lot, I think people need to hear this in more stark terms, right? A lot of the time, because they are making very big decisions about their futures. And once you get on a certain path, it becomes pretty hard a lot of times to change that. And sometimes that's built in. That's a feature, not a bug of some of these paths, like consulting, for example. How do you prioritize students, or how do you, convince students to prioritize doing good while still making lots of money versus just optimizing for personal wealth? And I imagine part of the answer there is that it's self-selected, right? So if they're coming at Tomorrow University, then they're already kind of the right group for this. But how do you kind of drill that in, or at least, lead people to think about this topic?
So it is a self-selection. People who apply at tomorrow, we ask them already about the mission at the beginning in the application process. So what do you want to change? How do you want to leave the world a better place than maybe you found it, So it is an inherent self-selection, and it just gets amplified once you join, because at the beginning when you join, there's the degree programs have 4 phases. The orientation phase is really about define your vision, values really well. So they really are clear where you want to go. And you will learn, every student learns about sustainability foundations. Every student also, one of the key parts is the people who shape you. At the end, you become also the sum of the people who actually you are together spending time with. So we have a community in which everybody is actually around this kind of question of how can I impact the world in a positive way. So you are surrounding this. And then we have to amplify this. Students, for example, in a Build Your Dream Team challenge, they actually define their personal board of advisors who is supporting them on being successful on that journey. Yeah? So it is everything geared on really maximizing people in their impact. And for sure, we have people which maybe which are coming for, hey, I want to be successful, and this success is defined just by money. But I don't know a single student, to be honest, who is with us at this point of time who's just out for the money. Doesn't come to my mind now. So it is this kind of self-selection process. It is this kind of process also where we ask them challenging questions, and they interact with each other when they think about this. Yeah, there is no hard selection criteria on the other hand side. Yeah, at the end, we don't know if somebody might do something different. Yeah, and but we are, even if they graduate, we ask them for the impact they have. Yeah, so one of the things how we measure our impact is based on the impact our students have. This is for us the ultimate measure. Yeah. And from this also so far, we know that our students really have tremendous impact actually on all the different SDGs, not just on climate, not just on energy, not just on biodiversity, but really tremendous on those different things. So I think this is what we see currently from a selection process, from a community approach. Yeah.
That kind of impact you're seeing after they graduate. I guess you've got some first cohorts that have graduated now and going into the workforce. Where are they landing after Tomorrow University? What kinds of jobs are they getting, or companies are they starting?
Yeah, so there's a big diversity. You mentioned people. Actually, we have people join us from consultant companies who want to switch their career. So this is something which we see.
Good for them.
Some of them actually switching jobs. Some of them switching and becoming actually entrepreneurs. We have people who are in organizations like Apple, and then they are thinking about how can they help to Apple. And I think Apple is doing quite a good job, for example, in the field of sustainable company. But how can we think more about circular economy? How can we improve actually the footprint? How can we do more for the society, for example? This is the case that I grow. An example for startups, so many different industries. One is founded a startup in the maritime industry that she's creating AI technology for ships to arrive just on time in harbor, so they don't have to spend time waiting in front and with that consuming energy. Different one. We have one which is in the education field, helping actually migrants to learn the language of, in this case, a Swedish student. And she created a new organization and a very interesting approach actually for how to address migrants and help them really effectively. We have also a small student create actually an impact fund, which is also really interesting because he extended his network actually and went to we need more funds actually for impact entrepreneurs, which is exciting. There's so many different, I think, really great stories. But we have also, for example, a musician talking about the bachelor in AI, a musician who wants to use AI to create the next level of music and integrates this. So he's studying the Bachelor of Science, or a doctor also who's, for example, in the AI program. And he's a Finnish doctor, but he wants to learn actually about AI and how he can create eventually health software, which is helping. So it's really different profiles from that perspective.
I mean, that makes for such an interesting group as well, and for interesting exchange when people come from these different backgrounds and have these different goals. So that's fascinating. You work in cooperation with the, let's call it bricks and mortar university, Wirtschaftsuniversität Wien, or WU, which is Austria's top business school, I guess. And I should mention that I also give lectures there. What does the cooperation look like? How did it come together? And to what extent is this what do they call it? Co-opetition and versus competition? Do they see you as a threat? Do they see your model as a threat?
So I think we've been lucky and that we are very proud actually of that collaboration and that the Vienna University, the Executive Academy more specifically, actually did set up this collaboration so early on. And what happened in a nutshell was that during the pandemic, they struggled to deliver real great also online programs. So that's where our specialization and focus came in. And based on that, we said, okay, how about if we actually set up together the Master of Science program? And this was the starting point for the collaboration, where on the one hand side, they have really great academics, also in sustainability. And we have also in the platform on the one side, but also academics in, for example, entrepreneurship or, for example, in technology. And we actually set up that program together, and it was a huge success. And this was also one of the key stepping stones actually for tomorrow and why we're here today, because we have successfully not just supplied students, but we help them actually to be very successful. So that's the reason why until today, this program is running and expanding.
And in what ways do you work together now? So post-pandemic, what does that cooperation look like?
So in a nutshell, the 30% of the academics are coming from the Vienna University, while 70% come from Tomorrow. Students learn fully on the Tomorrow system and then on the Tomorrow platform.
Amazing. Okay, I need to see this platform. I think I need to get a demo of it. It sounds amazing. You're also an angel investor, and just to not get the hopes up of listeners, you have a strict focus on funding initiatives that come out of Tomorrow University. And I wonder if you've had a chance to make first investments with that or anything you can talk about from that pipeline so far.
So in total, I've done 15 investments so far. Yeah, so it's also, let's say, it's a limited scope. But I really think that it makes a difference. Yeah, and I'm not doing it for let's call it for the wishes. It's really because I think it's because of the meaningfulness of it. Really giving people the chance and supporting ecosystems. And we talked about funding, and it is important to have actually access to funds. So that's my motivation. And then as we founded now Tomorrow University, we see also students which are really having amazing ideas actually, and you want to support them. Yeah, and this is where I said, okay, I need to focus also my resources. They're by far not unlimited, unfortunately. And that's the reason why I said, okay, let's do this with Tomorrow, invest only in Tomorrow students. And we are also in partnerships with other networks and accelerators, for example, that we actually collaborate to support students with funding. One of them is EVOR, a network, which is doing an amazing job actually supporting funders, very people-centric accelerators. Also, for example, Techstars, which we're working together with to help students build successful businesses. Because, as I mentioned to you, as part of the Master of Science program, there are many who actually really now build up that confidence. They learn the skills and they get also the exposure to actually say, hey, I really want to take the step and build a company, even if they're coming out of a comfort zone before. So that's why I'm passionate about helping them. And this is one way of doing that, actually.
I'll put links to those accelerators in the show notes as well. What is your long-term vision for Tomorrow University? And to paraphrase the famous job interview question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or maybe that's a question on Parship also. That was probably a Parship question.
So I mentioned our purpose is that we want to excel transition to sustainable society. And we call it society specifically because we think it's about the people and the whole ecosystem. That's the reason why I think this is really what is driving us. And the mission I mentioned before, to educate and empower the people actually who are doing the change, because at the end, it's individuals who drive that change. Yeah? And they are the ones who we want to strengthen and really support. And we want to reach 1 million people to actually drive this change. Why? Because out of the theory of change, we believe that 1 million people is actually enough to change the world. Yeah. So if we're humble, I would say we want to change the world. And we actually are convinced that this is possible, and that's what we are doing. Yeah, 5 years might not be enough for that, to be honest. Yeah, so I have more a 10-year horizon for this actually in plan. But that's our trajectory, and we are doing everything actually to do this because, again, it's not a local problem. So we are building also a global university, and we have 80% of our students currently from Europe, but we have also 20% from outside already, and we are quite excited about this actually. And currently, most of our students coming also from Western countries, but we have students also from countries like Nigeria, Pakistan, And this is what is really exciting for us, because we want to give accessibility and opportunity to drive the change actually from all the different regions. So that's our trajectory from that perspective.
I mean, it's an amazing goal to hit 1 million people. I think it's probably very possible, especially with the scalable platform like you've got. Speaking of scalable platforms, you have 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. So I'm guessing that if people want to kind of track your activities or see what you're up to, following you on LinkedIn is probably the place to go. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Great. And I'll put links all to your LinkedIn and also to Tomorrow University in the show notes. Christian, thank you so much.
Fine. Thank you so much for the invite. Loved it here.
Thanks for listening to another ClimateTech podcast. It would mean a lot if you would subscribe, rate, and share this podcast. Get in touch anytime with tips and guest recommendations at hello@climatetechpod.com. Find me, Ryan Grant Little, on LinkedIn. I'll be back with another episode next week. Bye for now. This episode is supported by Grizzle, B2B content to create and capture demand. I first met Grizzle's founder, Tom Watley, 5 years ago at a conference in Dublin. I was so impressed that I signed a deal with him to do all my software company's content that same evening at the pub. Remember that, Tom?
Kinda.
And they're still doing it 2 years after we sold the company because the new owners love Grizzle as much as I do. If you sell B2B, book 30 minutes in Tom's calendar at grizzle.io/climate. That's GRIZZLE.io/climate.